Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Empowered Conversations, where I have amazing conversations with extraordinary people out doing beautiful things in the world in service to others. And today I'm so excited to have my guest who I met last September during a Take the Stage virtual challenge. Her name is Libby Adams, and she is a speaker, author, and transformation strategist, using her more than 30 years of experience in education, leadership, and personal growth to help hundreds of high achievers transform their lives from the inside out. That makes sense. And reach their goals in record time. She is also the founder and president of the International Academy of Self-Knowledge, a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming, and the creator of Transformational Meditation. Dr. Adams is also certified in the Dr. Albert Ellis method of addiction counseling and is the creator of Spiritual R.E.H.A.B, a 28-day transformational journey for people who do not have alcohol or substance abuse issues. Boy, I'm excited to hear all about this. We all have something we need to rehab, is what she says, without needing to check into a facility. Dr. Adams has devoted time as president of the Association for Integration of the Whole Person and as presiding president of the AIWP Board of Directors. If you're interested in learning more about Dr. Adams' work, you can visit her website to check out her free ebook called The Positive Purpose of Negative Emotions. All right, everybody, drum roll, please, and help me in welcoming Dr. Libby Adams. Hey, Libby, what's going on?
Hi, Stephanie. It's so great to be on your show. It's like, I imagine that you recognize how unique you are, how entertaining you are, how smart you are. And you know, like I always like you call yourself, but we call you Steph Funny because you're so funny. It's like you are funny and smart. And I am very excited that we're having a conversation. Yes. We're having empowered conversations. It's not me, you're not interviewing me. We're speaking because, as I was telling you earlier, you have so many interesting things to say. Right. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. It's such an honor to have you here, Libby. I'm telling you, we've been talking about this for months, ever since I first started, and now we could hammer out the date.
Yep.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, when we were talking earlier, you're back in Mexico. I love that because you were like, when I go to the States, I get my hair done. I'm like, well, what do you mean when you go? Like, oh, I didn't realize that you didn't live here. I love it.
Know. I said to everybody last week so I was there during Mother's Day. The reason I actually went is because you can only stay in Mexico for 180 days. So I was around 170 days. So I said, why don't I just time it? So I'll go home back to Columbus, Ohio, where I actually live. For Mother's Day, I was there for 4 days and then came back. I got my hair done.
Oh, I love it. And I hope that Lucy Rosa Staggi, I hope she gets on, either she's listening or watches at a different time, because I was like, oh, Lucy Rosa Staggi lives over there. And I have to say her whole name. I'm like, y'all need to get together. And we were talking about, like, you're like, well, she's quite a bit away. It's like 6 hours. I'm like, oh, okay. You know, I just know she lives in Mexico. And it's just like when I've had people, you know, who know me and another person who live in the States, and they may live in another country, and they're like, oh, you need to get together with so-and-so. I'm like, oh, where do they live? Oh, California. Oh, well, that's like a 6-hour plane ride, you know. But it's that, you know, still that connection. So well, like I said, thank you, and welcome to Empower Conversations. And what I love to do at the very start is just really dig deep into that heart of the person I'm speaking with. And my question is, what brought you to your fervent, heartfelt, passionate why? What led you to where you are today throughout the entire journey of your entire life or your adult life that is enabling you to what you're doing, like the beautiful things you're out in the world doing in service to others? Where does that come from?
It all started back in 1984.
Love it.
It goes way back when my then husband got cut by the Atlanta Hawks after he'd been playing in the NBA for 5 years. And he just did not have the life skills and ability to make that transition, the adjustment, right, from that world to the normal world. So his way of coping was to do a bunch of drugs, which landed him in a 28-day drug treatment facility.
Yeah.
So while he's in there, he's probably in there for maybe a week. We had 2 little kids at the time, 2 boys, 4 and under. So while about the first week, the director comes up to me and she said, "Your husband is doing so well. He's the president of the rehab group." And I'm thinking, oh, great. Isn't that special? Right? He's got rehab. They got rehab. Everyone's got rehab. I'm out here holding our life together, my life together, the kids in the house and all of that. And like, I was like exhausted and stressed out. And you know what I thought, Stephanie? I said to myself, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. I said, "Where's my damn rehab?"
Yeah, I get
right?
it.
Like,
Yeah.
that would be nice, because like life is hard, work is hard, marriage is hard, but you can't just go to a facility and say, "Hey, you know, I'm having a rough time. Can I check in?" Like if you're not a drug addict, right? You can't say, "Can I just check in for 28 days?" That's not a thing. So at that time, I thought, I'm going to create something like this. You know, I'm going to create something. And it took me a long time. That was 1984. I founded the International Academy of Self-Knowledge in 1994, 10 years later. Then I started doing my work, the work that I do now, transformation. But then in 2001, my ex-husband comes to me. Now, I've been doing the academy for like 7 years by that time, doing the work that I do. He said, my ex-husband, he said, "Would you help me put together a 28-day inpatient rehab program so people do not have to go through 13 detoxes and 8 rehabs like I did?" Now, I did like consult with my higher power on that, because that was a big ask, right? And my absolute direction was yes, yes, yes. And so we did. So we put it together. We had really great results with people, you know, heroin addicts, cocaine, meth, you know, you name it. And then after 2 years of that, I said to him, "Look, you've got your rehab. We got the program. We had a 5-bed house, was in Southern California." And I said, "I'm going to India, and I'm going to rewrite this program for people that don't have drug addiction and don't have, you know, aren't alcoholics, because there it was, right? Because where's their damn rehab?"
Right.
So that's what I did. That's what I did. So I've been doing this spiritual rehab is what I called it, right?
Right.
And I made an acronym out of it. And you read it, right? You said R-E-H-A-B. So R is for reclaim who you are and why you're here.
Right.
E is for eliminate negative thoughts, emotions, and actions. H is have clarity about what you want and how to get it. A is accelerate your growth through a connection with a higher power. And B is become productive, peaceful, and happy. So that's the function of it.
I love that, Libby. You know, I wanted to speak to something. So your husband, so many, even those that are high achievers, like in realm of what we see as success or wow, or somebody. So an athlete, especially like, you know, that's playing in the NBA, or we could think, I'm just going to use this like any athlete or anyone, or let's even talk about like just your person who works a job and then retires. That is where they tie their worth and value in what they're doing instead. And people aren't watching for what you're doing. They're watching for why you're doing it. And you may not even understand that when you're watching that basketball player or that football player or that hockey player, there's something within you that is tied to what, wow, look at what they've done. But when you tie everything that you are into what you're doing instead of why you're doing it, when you are no longer doing that, that is a shell shock. And that, and I love this rehab because every single human being on the planet has something to rehab. It doesn't matter what you've achieved or what you've not achieved. And this ties into my guest that's coming on next week. I'm going to refrain from saying his name because, but I'm super excited. But I'll just say that he has shared stories. He's a pro NHL hockey player, and he has shared stories of some of his fellow players who, when they, retired, took their lives.
Yes, I know.
And it's not just that level of play, but it's like, I mean, the self-awareness, the personal growth, the understanding of who you are, your core values, what you love about yourself, what lights you up about life. It's not just about the achievement, because and I get some of that drive, in let's say sports arena.
Yes,
is maybe someone else's wishes that drives that achievement. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Certainly not saying it's wrong. But then again, and so many people, like, again, when they retire, they get depressed. And that's why it's so important to, that self-awareness and literally living from your heart's core values is so important.
And, as you're saying that, everything to me rises and falls on a person's awareness of their identity and who they are, right? I love that Wayne Dyer says we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and he's quoting another French guy. He didn't make that up, but he's the most famous for it. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And what happens is, in the human experience, people start to identify with stuff like you're saying.
Right.
Identify, well, I'm a professional athlete. That's my identity. That's who I am. So then who would I be if I weren't that?
I'm CEO of a bank. I'm CEO of, I'm, CEO of like one of the biggest Fortune 500 companies in the world. What happens when I retire?
Right.
What did I cultivate from my heart and my heart set and my mindset?
That's right.
That keeps me at that state of elatedness. And it's not about not being elated by what you do, but again, it's more about being elated why you do it.
Yes.
Whether it's CEO of this or, someone who's a baker or a candlestick maker. I mean, it doesn't matter.
And you know what else that people overlook is, who is the one that's the CEO? Who is the CEO, right? My spiritual self, it's like we have different identities. Like when Wayne Dyer says we're spiritual beings, it's like, okay, well, then that's who I am. Theoretically, my spirit comes into my body and then my spirit leaves my body. So I'm not even my body, right? If I'm not my body, I certainly am not identified as the CEO of a bank or an NBA player. I am who I am.
Right. And that's what's
independent of all that, right? Yes. That's what's important.
And I love to describe that spiritual way of being as we're all just everything that is, which is just different conglomerations of atoms from the periodic table. Hence, everything is one. Everything is of itself. We are all one. Everything is one. Even like this camera I'm looking at, the air I'm breathing, the energy waves that are creating this broadcast to the piece of paper.
Yes.
Just different conglomerations of atoms from the periodic table.
So we are way off in the weeds if we think our identity is what we do for a living.
Right.
In the weeds. One of the funny things that I have students all over the world. I'm fortunate. I have students in every continent. I remember this one guy from Switzerland saying, he said, and because I use in the weeds, like when we're off track, right? He said, I don't like to go out in the weeds because Mike Tyson is in the weeds and he beats me up. Meaning when we go off track, there are going to be consequences and it's not going to be pretty. But when he said Mike Tyson is in the weeds, I'm like, that was kind of a random comment for a Swiss fellow.
Yeah. Well, but I know. Yeah, I know. Like, but it's amazing what everyone knows about so much. But sometimes we, drifting off in the weeds is exactly where we needed to go to then rediscover what and why, or should I say why we're doing what we're doing, or maybe take a different trajectory, make a left turn instead of a right turn this time to create. Yeah.
Tony Robbins says, and I'll sort of paraphrase it. I met Tony in 1989, That's a whole other story.
Oh, I've got one too, but you go ahead.
Which remind ourselves to come back to our Tony stories.
Yes.
But why did I go off on? Oh, yeah. Okay. So one of my favorite things that Tony says that I'm kind of paraphrasing is the road to good judgment is paved with a lot of bad judgment.
Absolutely. Bad. Yeah. Right.
So the weeds are what we could call a painful learning experience. So, okay, I'll tell you about my Tony story. So now this was 1989, 5 years after my 1984 story that I told you that I'd done a little bit of personal growth work. I took the EST training.
Oh, yeah. Werner Erhard. Yes.
Yeah, in
I've done something similar.
1974. That was my first training. I was 24 years old, and then I hated that training. It evolved into Landmark. Is that what you were going to say? Or also LifeSpring?
It's the same. That same concept of redefining the core concepts of how you operate and stand in your life. Okay. I did it through Legacy Center, and we have something here called gratitude training, but it's the same concept.
I know what you're talking about. So in 1989, I taught school, and I retired myself from school teaching after 9 years in 1980. It's like, I'm an old timer, Stephanie. I'm going to be 70 this year. I've been doing a lot of stuff on this planet for a long time. But anyway, so in 1989, I took this job as a professional fundraiser. And so my mother was the district psychologist in the school where I taught. So she was all interested in like psychology stuff. So I'm in her house one day, in her closet, and I look up, and here's this like big box wrapped in cellophane, clear through it, that says unlimited power. And I say to my mom, what's this? And she said, oh, I got this off an infomercial. And I said, can I borrow it? And she said, yes. So it's that Tony Robbins unlimited power thing from the 80s, from those infomercials. And I listened to that thing. And man, I was impressed. It was really powerful. And so I did that 30-day program. I manifested the money to go to Date with Destiny down in La Jolla. I went to that training. And then I did the firewalk after that. And when I was at the firewalk, Tony, there were probably about 2,000 people. They were like way smaller, maybe 1,500 people. And Tony says, I'm looking for someone who's normally motivated, but they can't get motivated about a certain thing. I'm thinking, that's me. I have to ask people. I'm a professional fundraiser, but I'm afraid to ask people for money. It's like, which is not good in a professional.
There's a limiting belief centered around that somewhere.
Yes, I didn't want to be rejected. I'll ask them and they'll say no, and like, oh. And so I could see people saying like me. And then in my peripheral, I see somebody coming down the aisle, and I was kind of up front. So I jump out of my seat. I run up, I slide onto the stage, kind of like a wrestler going under the ropes. And here I am. He worked with me for maybe 5 minutes, got that limiting belief gone. And then I realized, oh my gosh, rapid change is possible. I did not know that until 1989. When rapid change is possible, I'm like, I'm in. I want to learn this stuff, because the reason I went into education is I was in the college in the 60s. That was a great time to be. You would have liked that, Stephanie.
Oh yeah, that would have been fun.
That would have been your cup of tea. And so I was going to major in psychology, and I started I took my first psychology class. I'm like, oh, hell no, I'm not going to listen to all these problems. It was like heavy, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So I switched to education. But when I jumped off that stage, no longer afraid to ask people for money, I'm like, I'm in, I'm back. I want to be in this field. And so I took his stuff. I staffed Date with Destiny 6 times. I did the firewalk, staffed the firewalk, did his certification, blah, blah, blah. I'll pause now for you.
Oh no. So he was up on stage, and you literally just jump right up and just charge the stage. And that is something that someone like him has the utmost admiration and respect for. And real quick, I just want to say we have a Facebook user. I don't know the name because they're probably listening from my DeFi Rick and Licious and You private Facebook group. Says 70? What? Like, you look amazing. Yes, I was about to cut her off and say the same thing. Just like, girl. Like, yeah, I wouldn't go anywhere near 70. Let's just say that. Oh my God. So my story was back in 2017. I was looking at my Facebook, And it rotated like, okay, let me just first preface with Tony Robbins to me is the ultimate, like just ultimate, and everything that he emanates and radiates is the ultimate in that which is living with purpose, like just, and you can feel how much he wants everybody to live from that space. Okay.
Passion. Live with passion.
Yeah, girl. And one morning, so because I've listened to him and taken courses, I was in my room and I was looking at Facebook, and it rotated on my news feed that he was going to be the keynote speaker at this event where Dean Graziosi and all these other people, he was going to be the last one to come on. There's like 11 speakers maybe.
Yeah.
And I clicked on it, and the least expensive ticket at that point in time was $497 up till about $1,600.
Okay.
And at that point in time, that was not something I could justify spending, $497 on. Okay. Couple weeks later, looking at Facebook again, and it rotates on my news feed. And I remember thinking, oh, and well, one of my girlfriends shared it. That's right. One of my girlfriends shared it. I remember thinking, oh, I know I'm not able to go. God, I would love to be in the presence of Tony Robbins. And so I clicked on the link anyway. Girl, damn, if buy one, get one for $149.
What?
I had I'm getting cold chills right now. I had an out of body experience. I tapped on, at first I texted her, I said, cause I was like, shut up, let's do it. I said, I'm paying now. I got back on, I purchased the $149. I was like, just PayPal me your half. Yeah. And I didn't care. I said, I knew that I was going to be in the nosebleed section, but I didn't give a rat's ass. I was going to be in the presence of somebody that I have such an amazing amount of admiration and respect for. Yeah. So then like a couple weeks, when the event was, she wound up having a babysitter issue and wasn't able to go. So I reached out to another girlfriend who's like, yeah, I'll go. She transferred money to the girl and then blah, 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 ticket. So we show up that day and we watch the speakers, and then Tony comes on, and girl, let me tell you, do you know who Lisa Nichols is? Of course you do.
I do.
One of my favorite things that she says, one of my favorite things, because there's so many, is play full out. Do you play full out? Okay. Well, I have no problem. And I don't think this is anything hard for anybody that's watching or ever will be watching on the replay, for anybody to get, is I don't give a rat's ass. I live from my heart. My life ain't perfect, but I live from my heart.
Yes, you do.
And when he was telling us to do things, I was just elated out of my body, having this out of body, excited experience for that 3.5 hours. So there were periodically throughout his performance, he had these big white sticks, and he would go through the audience. And so you had the people on the floor, and then you had the people in the auditorium, on each side, and I was on one side.
Yes.
So I noticed that he would go through on the floor and he would high five people, and then he would go up to the other side of the Coliseum, and he kept doing that. Girl, this is crazy. And this is like 2.5 hours into it. And I remember looking at my girlfriend and I'm like, why won't he come over to our side? Cold chills, girl. There's no way it could have hurt me. Damn, if he didn't walk down, walk across in front of the stage, walk by 200 other people on my side of the Coliseum, come over to me, because I'm up on the bleachers, but I'm at the bottom. He reaches over this wall that's separating the bleachers from the floor. He reaches up that big white stick, and I grabbed it, and we looked at each other and we shook hands. And so we were supposed to write him something about, like, we had specific questions, and every day for like a month, I sent him that email, and I put in the subject line, because he said, I read every email. I don't respond to every email, but I read. I'm like, damn, he's going to respond to me every day. And the subject line was "Girl in the red dress that shook your hand via your big white stick." Something that would get his attention. And I sent the email, and then I was like, okay, you know what? He may be thinking, I'm like, no, he's going to appreciate. Yeah. He's going to appreciate that. And then I started getting into my limiting beliefs and into my head. Oh, well, maybe he might think, oh my God, this girl is like hiding my bushes, peeking my window crazy. So I stopped, but that was yeah. Anyway,
Oh,
so much.
I
I love it.
love that. That is a great story. And see, we know, listen, you just got done saying we're all one, right?
Yes.
So we can't say there's no way that he could have known. He did
Cold
know
chills. Yes, cold
at
chills.
the oneness level. Obviously, he knew because look what he did. Right? You sent out the broadcast. He received the broadcast. Remember Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill
Oh God,
talking
yeah.
about
Oh hell yeah.
we're transmitters,
Yes,
but
we
we're also
are.
receivers, right? You
Yes.
transmitted, he
Yes.
picked up the broadcast, and that's that. And that's what happened. I love that story. When I jumped off the stage that day, but wait, there's more. Okay. So I jump off the stage and this lady runs up to me with a $20 bill. She said, "This is for the kids." So I was crying on stage. I'm like, I'm raising money, for the school for hearing impaired kids. They're counting on me. They pay $40,000 a year for their kids are 4 years old, and so I was crying about it. So she came up and then gave me the money. And then we went off to the dinner break and people just kept coming and giving me money. By the end of dinner, I had $600.
Oh, girl.
So I shared that with the group. You get up with microphones at those events. And I said, I just wanted to thank everybody. Like, I've got $600. And Tony said, and I'll match anything that everyone gives. Wow. Money starts coming down the aisles. Everybody's taking money out. The staff brings over a cardboard box. I had a cardboard box of money that was right around $3,500. The next morning, he wrote me a check for $3,500. I took $7,000 back to that school for the hearing impaired.
Wow, girl, you go. Wow. And think about what your why was and where you started. And then what you cultivated and created. And then, wow.
Yes. And see, when you talk about the why, my why is like, where's my damn rehab? My why is there should be a rehab for people that don't do drugs and alcohol. And I remember like you hear like a celebrity, big singer, so-and-so's going into rehab. I'm like, yep, there they go. Right. Yeah. Where's my damn rehab? I don't know how many times I said that. Yeah. And that's why I created it. And it was so interesting. I never would have thought in a million years that I was actually going to do it. I'm just complaining like, where is it? Right. I didn't say I'm going to do it. Actually, when I think about it, I don't think I intended to, but then just the fact, like you're talking about, Tony, just the fact that my ex-husband said, will you help me put together a rehab? It's like, I wouldn't have thought I'd be putting a rehab together in a million years. It's like, why would I do that? But my guidance was, yes, do it. But then, like I said, after 2 years, I'm like, okay, I did it, right? You asked me to do it. I did it. I'm going to now I'm going to redo this, right, for people. And so by him having to do that rehab and then me, that whole thing was my stepping stone to have the spiritual rehab that I have now that people love, that people don't even realize necessarily what it is. I don't always, now I've started saying, I'm like, why am I not saying why this is 28 days and why we do the work the way we do? It's like, you have to have daily coaching. You have to have support and accountability. You have to have transformational exercises, closed eye, one-on-one. I would never take anything away from my firewalk experience or your 3.5 hours, right? But your big transformation happened when Tony walked up to you and shook your hand, one-on-one.
Yeah.
That was magic, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I say. It's like, what makes my program different is it's like, we talk every day for 28 days. Actually, the truth is we talk 6 days a week. One day they're on their own. They do their own work.
Okay.
But they're still doing their work for 28 days. Right. And so that's why that's done. I'm like a really, really passionate and stuck on working one-on-one and working every day.
Right. And then again, it doesn't just stop there after that 28 days because personal growth and self-awareness is a lifelong journey. It's like anything. You don't go to the gym 1 time or 5 times and you're all of a sudden you're muscular and physically fit for the rest of your life. It's something that you must continue. And so I want R-E-H-A-B. Go say that again. I'm writing this down. And I also want you to share some of the details about the rehab program.
Okay. So You want me to tell you what the acronym stands for?
Yes.
R is for reclaim who you are and why you're here.
Love it.
E is for eliminate negative thoughts, emotions, and actions. H is to have clarity about what you want and how to get it. It's got to be practical, right? It's like we have to have methods and like good plans and taking action and all that. A is for accelerate your growth through your connection with a higher power. A higher power is the secret sauce, man. That's where it's at. That's where the powerful change comes from. And B is become peaceful, happy, and productive. There's the rehab. And everybody needs that. That's why I said we all need to rehab something. And you know what people need to rehab the most, Stephanie?
What?
Their emotions.
Yeah.
The negative emotions need rehabbing. And that's why that's what I'm offering for your viewers is my ebook that you had mentioned. That's called The Positive Purpose of Negative Emotions, because people think like negative emotions are bad and
right, because it doesn't feel good. Because it doesn't feel good. We do want to feel good. Yeah.
It does not feel good. But there's a reason. They're there. They're there for a reason. And so the negative emotions are the emotional equivalent to physical pain. Like if somebody's running and their knee pops and they have pain, they stop running to say, hey, something's wrong. The same thing when I have a negative emotion. Something's wrong. Stop. And let's find out what's going on, because negative emotions are messengers.
Yes, they are.
They're just letting you know something is wrong. Something is out of alignment. Stop. Right. And of the 27 years since I founded the Academy, I've been doing this, the positive purpose of negative emotions. The negative emotions only fit into 2 categories. And out of all of us, I've never seen anybody with a negative emotion that didn't fit into one of these 2 categories. They are. The reason we're having, the message is, the thought is incorrect, so change it. Meaning you're thinking the wrong thing, so stop thinking it. Of course you're fearful when you think that this is going to happen, right?
Right.
And the other one is correct action is needed, so take it. Of course you feel guilty because you're cheating on your wife. So stop cheating and then you wouldn't feel guilty.
Right.
So either the thought is incorrect, so change it. Correct action is needed, so take it. And there's a flow chart in this book that lets you know, but how do I know? Am I thinking the wrong thing? Or do I need to take some action? This flow chart, I'm not going to just do it now because people can do it themselves. Just follow that flow chart. And then you'll know, and then it processes the negative emotion. So at the end, it's done.
Guys, sign up for her book. I think I put that it's in the description. I think a link to your ebook, transformationalmeditation.org.
That's it. That's it.
Okay. So that is in the show notes. That's in the show notes, but we'll also put a link. Please come back and put these links to everywhere that people can find you under the broadcast. This is broadcast on my personal page, on YouTube, and in the DeFi Rick and Licious and You private group. I love that. I'm subscribing to the doggone book. I can tell you that. Again, I love doing this stuff because what more? There's so much more about me that I can discover and peel back. I don't know what I don't know because I haven't been made aware of it. I run toward, like one of my best friends, she says, Stephanie, the biggest thing I love about you is sometimes what I annoy about you. And it's that you run towards life with open arms. And I do. And I like anything, because how can I want to be the best. I want to be in the most possible amount of service to the most amount of possible people, period. And how do I do that unless I am doing the work for myself, myself?
Yes.
Oh my God, I love this.
You know, I had mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago that I was doing a 5-day journey, and that's already happened, but it was so powerful that I'm doing it again. It's a 5-day journey. It's called Roadmap to Results, the spiritual shortcut to success. And it's June 14th through 18th. But this is what will happen. I'm not enrolling people. It's like too early to be enrolling people in that. But when they sign up for the ebook, When you sign up for the ebook, amigos,
Yeah, guys.
I will have your email address. And then when it comes time for the thing, I can send out an invitation to that roadmap to results, the spiritual shortcut to success. And the reason I say that, and you know this, Stephanie, if people want to amp up their results, it's in the spiritual realm. That's just the way it is. It's no more like, you don't need more information. You
And that's
need,
with,
right? Go ahead.
no, I'm like just agreeing with you. That's all from within.
Yes.
All from within, so without, from without, so within. Everything you already have access to everything. You just have to have the awareness.
Yes, that's right.
That spiritual awareness. Yeah.
If I were to say one of the biggest things that we accomplish in that 28-day rehab of the spiritual rehab is awareness that you're a spiritual being and the results and how that's going to change your life, and just knowing who you are and the power that comes from operating from and as that the spiritual beings that we are. And I don't make any secrets about it, right? Like
Thank you.
when people call and they're asking about, the rehab, I will talk to them and say, listen, do you have some kind of a belief in a higher power, infinite intelligence, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it? Because if they don't, I don't have a problem that they don't, but it's not a fit for where I'm going.
Right.
Right? Because Albert Einstein said, you can't solve the problem with the same level of mind that created the problem. So it's our conscious mind that created the problem. So the good news is there's a universal mind that's higher. So that's what we're using to transform their false beliefs in the transformational meditation.
Does this make sense, guys, how she's explaining and breaking this down of the power that you have when you wake up and realize that you are the power?
And you know what, Stephanie? You know how for years and years, everybody's like the power of the subconscious mind, the subconscious mind. And you know what? That is so last century. It's the power of the superconscious mind.
Superconscious.
The superconscious mind is above the subconscious. The subconscious mind is the conduit to the superconscious mind and the universal, right? And so transformational meditation, the way we do the transformation, like with these parts, like you mentioned, like limiting beliefs, right? We use the universal mind to do the reprogramming. I'll give you a perfect example, and it's a short one. This was I'm going to say 2002. Student says to me, and it's like when in one of our first sessions, he was an airline pilot for a major U.S. airline. After 9/11, he said, Libby, I feel like every time I go up in the plane, I'm playing Russian roulette. Now, how's that for stress? Like, this is his job. He thinks he's going to get shot down. He's going to die somehow. He's playing Russian roulette. We did one exercise, Stephanie. So I take him into the transformational meditation. He just closes his eyes. And then they bring out a picture, a visualization of their higher power, universe, whatever they want to call it, right?
Right.
And then in the other hand, makes a picture of the part that says, I feel like every time I'm going up, I'm playing Russian roulette. Then my job as the facilitator is to have the Russian roulette part, the fearful part, become aware that infinite intelligence is over here. So let's call it greater power. So I say, is this part aware that your greater power is in the other hand yet? Usually they say no. It's like, have it become aware. It's like, what? Ooh. And then I ask, does this part trust the higher power? Because if it doesn't, well, then nothing's going to happen, no matter what the higher power.
Yeah, exactly. Mindset is everything.
Yes. And he says, yes. So then I say, what's the higher power's viewpoint on all that? Meaning, what does the higher power think about this Russian roulette story, right? Higher power says, I'm flying the plane. This part hears that. It's like, oh my gosh. And then they come together so that this part accepts the programming, the new programming of the truth that the higher power says, I'm flying the plane. He never had one fear after that because he knew it wasn't on all his shoulders. That's the transformational meditation process. And we do that in the rehab. We do that in the 28-day program. Every day, when these parts are coming up, getting them all back into the oneness, Stephanie, getting back into the oneness instead of over in the weeds, saying stuff that's not true.
And just again, like just at the basic level of this, for those that aren't in the realm of thinking and speaking, and how you and I and Siobhan, who's on here.
Hi, Siobhan.
She's my food therapy co-host. Oh,
I,
first,
I heard
but
about you, Siobhan.
I
Good
know
thing.
she is so fabulous. Is the power that you have. It doesn't mean your life becomes perfect and there's never a challenge or never a negative powerful event. But when you realize that you have the power over how you look at these things, whether you're going to remove these things from your life that are creating this pain, or whether you're going to learn how to transform something that you're doing that's attracting, it's all about the power that you realize that you have over how to execute your life and what you're able and what's possible for you.
Yes, yes.
And so Siobhan says, thanks, Livy. So Siobhan also says, negative emotion indicates what you don't want, which means if you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. But we need to focus. Yeah, understand what you don't want.
Yep.
But focus on what you do, because energy, law of attraction, that which is like unto itself is drawn. We must make a concerted effort to focus our heart-centered attentions on having and being what we want. But again, you got to first know who you are, and at the depths of what you're talking about, reclaim who you are and why.
Yeah, yes.
So many people don't. I mean, it
Why
doesn't matter.
you're here.
Like Oprah Winfrey did Tony Robbins' challenge. But one on the outside be like, Oprah's one of the most successful, powerful women in the world. But yet she even was like, she even is dedicated to herself for this spiritual love, this love of self, this self-worth and value. Doesn't matter how successful or what you've achieved or what you haven't, or how you don't feel you're successful. You're so worthy of yourself. You're so worthy of yourself just existing.
Yep. Yes. And that's why I said we all need to rehab something, right?
Yes.
Some people need to rehab their self-esteem.
Yeah.
But they're not doing drugs and alcohol. That pilot needed to rehab that part that thought it was playing Russian roulette. He didn't have an issue with drugs and alcohol, right? So that's my whole point. And like when I talk to people, you can see I'm really passionate about it. I've been doing this for 27 years and I never get tired of talking about it.
Yeah.
That when I first am talking to people, I don't even let them get into the rehab. I screen them. I said, so they do a 2-hour class. And it's like, let's do this 2-hour class, because I don't want you to sign up for 28 days of something you might not even like day one. And I'm thinking, and you might not be a good fit for the program. So let's do this 2 hours. And we do a little, see, it's like, what do you want to rehab? Well, give me a couple of things you want to rehab, right? And so they're like, one person was like, well, I have shame around blah, blah, blah. And it's like, so they get some work done and they get to put their little toe in the transformational waters to see how they like it in the process and understand the reclaiming their spiritual self and, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That is just so damn outstanding.
Thank you.
I love it. So Siobhan is every time she comments, it says Facebook user, but we know that it's Siobhan.
Okay.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to read your book and work through your book. And wow, this has been one hell of an empowered conversation.
I think we're done, Stephanie.
I know. We talked about that. We're like, she's like, how long does this last? I'm like, till the energy of what we have, till the energy just runs out. And it's,
till we're done saying what we have to say. I have nothing else to say. That's all I got, Stephanie.
I know. Now we need to go fill ourselves back up.
With lunch. I'm going to have some lunch.
Yes. Well, guys, tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, join Siobhan and I for food therapy. We have a special guest. Her name is Jacqueline Twa. She's a world traveler. And she has been a part of culinary schools around the world. And we're going to be making spicy clam pasta. She's going to be our guest. And I'm excited to have you as our guest. Like I said, I think Carol Boston's coming on next month.
Yeah.
So let's look at July and see when you're available. I'd love to have you on. And she's a vegan. So Siobhan, she's a vegan, and she wants to show us how to make something delicious with what
chili rellenos.
chili rellenos with
No, I was talking about Beyond. I was
what
talking
about burger? Beyond Burger.
I was talking about making burgers, but then since I was
Yeah.
in Mexico, I was thinking that I should show you guys how to make vegan chili rellenos because they just aren't out there. But you know what? I have to run because I forgot. I had a coaching session that started 15 minutes ago.
Oh, no. Okay. All right, Libby, thank you so much for being on. Thank you, everyone, for watching Empowered Conversations. Till next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.